Well, good evening, readers. We are with Morgan O'Hara, a US artist who is in Hong Kong for a rather special project here at an art gallery in Mong Kok. And I think, Morgan, it's best if you introduce what's happening in this rather intimate venue this evening.
Okay. People have come together to handwrite in Chinese or in English, depending on what language they prefer, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's a part of a project that I've been doing all over the world, just encouraging people to write by hand and to get it into your body and mind. It's a very different process from just reading it. To write it by hand, any document that has to do with the protection of human rights. And so far we've done the the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Chinese and English and French and German, and we've done the German Constitution, the US Constitution, the Portuguese Constitution, the Italian Constitution. And so my goal with this social art project is to encourage people to hand copy these documents which were written to protect our rights.
And it's quite an intimate affair, of course. You've
Yes.
generally about 12 or so people, it looks, from the photographs I've seen of the other places that you've done this.
Right.
But I mean, what is the purpose of that? I think in your film you talked about activism for introverts.
Yes, it's there are many ways to protest whatever we need to protest. There's the march, there's the throwing things, there are yelling things, there are banners. There's all kinds of possibilities for saying I don't like something. But I am not an extrovert, and I have participated in those things, but I don't enjoy them. And I wanted to find a way of expressing myself and supporting what I consider to be really important, which are the documents that have been written to protect our human rights, whichever ones.
Certainly Hong Kong is a city of protest, they say, and there's lots of very colourful and brash, very loud protests almost every weekend, hundreds. Even this morning, probably the opposite of this scene now, we saw the pro-democracy icon Joshua Wong unfurling a banner outside the government headquarters against the national anthem law. What is the feeling you get from the people you work with when they write out these documents, and what interpretations have you seen that they've had? We see people taking a more sort of calligraphy approach this evening in Chinese, and you say that people have different ways of rendering these
Some people
things.
draw. Some people, like, for example, the US Constitution starts with the words "we the people." So sometimes people just write the word "we the people" and very elaborate with it as an art piece. It just depends on what document you're working with, and also it depends on what the person feels like doing. It isn't school, it's not there's not a formula for doing it. I just present the documents, or people bring their own documents and they copy them however they want to, and when they're finished, they take them home. And they can continue, some of the constitutions are much longer. This Universal Declaration of Human Rights, you can actually copy the whole thing in 2 hours. But the US Constitution takes 12 hours, the German something like 20.
Well, you attempted yourself to write this in Chinese, I understand, last night. How long did that take?
It took me 2 hours to write 2 articles. There are 30 of them, and everybody else finished the whole 30.
Also,
I'm very slow.
I see. Writing this, you also mention how it forces you to think about, how these documents were formed. Can you talk about the UN Declaration and perhaps its meaningfulness today? It seems to be going out of fashion in a few places, where you're from and where we stand now, for instance.
Yeah, it's a very utopian document. It was written in 1948. And this was kind of the spill-off after the Second World War, when people realized we just can't keep having these world wars. We have to stop this. So let's make a document that suggests how we might be most civilized and how we might live together. And so a committee of 5 people came together in 1948, sponsored by the United Nations, and they worked on it for quite a while to figure out what's the best way to how to even write down what we should have as respect for each other. And the principal person was René Cassin, who's a jurist, a judge in France. The original document was written in French. And now you can find the document online in 300 different languages. It's very easy to download it, and it's very interesting to copy it. The document itself won, and Cassin won a Nobel Prize for it in 1950 after it was done. I'm not sure about 1950, but a couple of years later he got the prize for it. And it covers just about everything, starting with free speech and freedom of person, fair trial if crimes have been committed. You know, it covers the whole range of what we consider to be our rights as humans. Respect for each other. You know, it's not like, it's very idealistic. And actually, when you read it and you write it, you realize how very little of it is actually implemented in living.
The US President has threatened to withdraw from this declaration. Do you think this is a endangered, document, if you will? Are we in danger of forgetting about it?
The document's not in danger because it exists. But people who are in power can destroy the atmosphere in which human rights exist. And it was partly because of, or my impetus for starting this was really because of the nasty tone of things that are happening in Washington. I just can't stand it. It's very disgusting, and it's not only disgusting and crude, but it's very dangerous. And so I felt like at least this doesn't solve, writing this Constitution or the documents doesn't solve any problems, but it calms you down. And when you're calmer, your decision-making processes are better. And so for that reason, it's useful. And also doing it around a table with a group of people, it creates a community. And the community, in this moment, we are all concentrating on human rights in a very quiet, personal way, and it goes deeper. It's very transformative in that way.
And there is a short film about how you came up with this. Can we see that on YouTube? Where can we find that?
It's not on YouTube yet because the filmmaker, he's starting to enter it into film festivals.
I see.
And they don't want anything to be on YouTube. But
and there's a new film as well coming out.
Yes.
So which you're making now, I understand.
Yeah.
So, and you're off again this week back to the US?
I'm going back to New York on Friday.
Okie dokie.
To face all the terrible news every day that's coming from Washington. And then, we're continuing to do these sessions every month in New York. And then anybody who wants to start a session where you live, you can get in touch with me. The email address is handwritingtheconstitution@gmail.com. It's very easy to get in touch with me, and I'll walk you through it and tell you how to do it. If you want to start it up in your house, in your restaurant, in your cafe, in your library, it doesn't matter. And you can even do it at home by yourself.
Great. Ms. O'Hara, thank you for joining us. I'll let you get on with writing the entire UN Declaration. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll just have a quick look at some of the progress.